My wife returned from her 2-week solo trip with the dramatic declaration, "I am just not sure about us anymore." Clearly expecting a desperate reaction from me, I simply smiled and replied, "Actually, I already signed the divorce papers this morning. Say hello to Mark for me." She completely froze when she realized I had known everything from the very beginning. The front door opened with that familiar creak I'd been hearing for 7 years. She walked in, pulling her rolling suitcase behind her, wearing sunglasses indoors even though it was almost evening. A classic move. I was sitting on the couch, a cup of coffee in hand, watching her like I was watching a movie I already knew the ending to. She took her time, setting the suitcase down slowly, removing the sunglasses with what I can only describe as theatrical precision. Then she looked at me with an expression that was probably meant to be mysterious and conflicted. "We need to talk," she said, her voice heavy with manufactured emotion. I took a sip of my coffee, said nothing, just waited. She walked closer, stopping about 10 feet away as if she were standing on a stage. "These past 2 weeks have given me a lot of time to think. About us. About everything." She paused, clearly expecting a reaction from me. When I gave her nothing, she continued, "I'm not sure about us anymore. I don't know if this is what I want." There it was, the line she'd probably rehearsed in her head for days. Maybe even practiced in front of hotel mirrors while Mark was in the shower. I watched her face, waiting for the rest of her performance. "I think we need to seriously consider if this marriage is working," she added, her voice dropping even lower. "If we're truly happy." I nodded slowly, set my coffee on the side table, stood up, and stretched a little. She watched me carefully now, probably expecting tears, anger, or desperate questions about what she meant. Instead, I smiled. "That's interesting timing," I said calmly, "because I actually signed the divorce papers this morning. They're on the kitchen table if you want to take a look." Her face froze, completely still. It was like watching someone get paused in a video. "What?" The word barely came out above a whisper. "The divorce papers," I repeated, walking toward the kitchen. "I filed 3 days ago. My lawyer had them expedited. All you have to do is sign your part, and it's done." I picked up the folder from the counter and held it up. "See? My signature's already here." She was staring at me as if I'd started speaking a foreign language. Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. No words came out. "Oh, and say hello to Mark for me," I added nonchalantly. "Hope you two had a good time in Portland. That hotel by the water looked pretty nice in the pictures." The color drained from her face so fast I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "How did you?" she started, but her voice broke. How did I know? I walked back to the couch and sat down, completely relaxed. "Let's see. I know you weren't at your friend's place in Seattle like you said. I know you spent 2 weeks with Mark Mitchell from your office. I know about the Italian restaurant on the 3rd night, the hike on day 5, and that expensive hotel room you moved into on day 7. Should I go on?" She was shaking now, a visible tremor. "You had me followed. I had the truth documented," I corrected. "There's a difference. And honestly, Frank did an incredible job. The guy is thorough. He has everything. Photos, texts, the whole package. Your lawyer is going to have a hard time arguing against it." She tried to take a step forward, but seemed to forget how her legs worked. "We can talk about this. We can work through this." I laughed. Not a mean laugh, just one of genuine amusement at the absurdity. "Work through this? You just walked in here with your little speech about not being sure about us. You wanted me to beg, didn't you? To break down and ask what I did wrong. To promise to change, maybe even cry a little?" "That's not," she began. "Yes, it was," I interrupted. "But here's the thing. I've known for 3 weeks. 3 weeks of watching you lie to my face. 3 weeks of listening to you talk about finding yourself while you were planning a romantic getaway with another man. So no, we're not going to work through anything. This is over." She collapsed into the armchair across from me, her entire dramatic entrance completely deflated. "This is insane. You can't just end 7 years like this." "I'm not ending it. You did when you booked that trip with Mark. I'm just making it official." I picked up my coffee again, noticing it had gone cold. "The papers are pretty straightforward. I keep what's mine. You keep what's yours. The house is a rental. So that's simple. No kids, thank God. It should be finalized in a few months." What about therapy? She asked, and I could hear the desperation creeping into her voice. Don't we owe it to ourselves to at least try? Therapy works when both people want to fix something, I said. You don't want to fix us. You want to have your cake and eat it too. Keep me as the stable option, while you explore your feelings with Mark. That's not how this works. She was crying now. Real tears, not the manufactured kind from her entrance. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. You made a choice. I corrected her gently. A series of choices, actually. Every text, every lie. Every moment spent with him. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. I stood up and went to the kitchen. I'm ordering a pizza. You should probably call someone to come get you. Or call Mark. See if he's free. Oh wait, probably not a good idea. His wife might answer. That last part hit her like a physical blow. His wife. Yeah, Michelle. Married for 12 years, 2 kids. Frank found her info on day 2 of his investigation. Nice woman. From what I hear, she'll be getting her own file of evidence tomorrow morning. Figured she deserved to know what her husband has been up to. The look on her face was a mixture of horror and disbelief. She opened her mouth several times, but nothing came out. Anyway, I said, pulling out my phone to order food. You have until the pizza gets here to get what you need for tonight. After that, we can arrange a time for you to get the rest of your things. I'll be civil about it. I'm not angry anymore. Honestly, I'm just relieved we're doing this now instead of 10 years from now. She just sat there, in complete shock, while I scrolled through the pizza app, completely unfazed. The woman who had walked in ready to deliver her rehearsed speech was gone, replaced by someone who had just realized her entire plan had blown up in her face. And me? I was getting really hungry. Pepperoni sounded good. 3 weeks earlier, I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I noticed her phone light up on the counter. She was in the shower, and normally, I wouldn't have looked. Privacy matters, right? But this time, something made me glance over. The message preview showed a name I didn't recognize, Mark. And the message read, "Can't wait for Portland. 2 weeks, just the 2 of us." My hand froze halfway to the coffee pot. Portland. She had told me she was going to Seattle to stay with her college friend Sarah for 2 weeks. Something about needing space to clear her head and reconnect with old friends. I had thought it was odd, but I hadn't pushed it. I didn't pick up her phone, didn't unlock it or read more. I just stood there, staring at those words until the screen went dark again. My first instinct wasn't anger, it was clarity. A sudden, cold clarity about a lot of little things I had been ignoring. The way she'd been distant for months, how she'd started working late more often. The new clothes she'd bought, but never wore around me. The password she added to her phone after 7 years of leaving it unlocked. I had explained it all away because that's what you do when you trust someone. You give them the benefit of the doubt until you can't anymore. That text was my line in the sand. She came out of the bathroom 10 minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, humming a song I didn't recognize. She picked up her phone, saw the message, and smiled, a genuine smile. Then she looked at me, and the smile shifted into something more neutral. "Coffee smells good," she said. "Just made it," I replied, keeping my voice normal. "So, when do you head out for Seattle?" "Friday morning." Sarah is so excited. We haven't had any real time together in forever. The lie came out as smooth as butter. No hesitation, no remorse. She had rehearsed this. 2 weeks is a long time, I said, testing the waters. She shrugged. "I know, but I really need it. Work has been crushing me. And I just need to decompress somewhere else. You understand, right?" I nodded. "Of course. You should do what you need to do." She kissed me on the cheek and picked up her coffee, already scrolling through her phone, probably replying to Mark. I watched her go into the bedroom and close the door, and I made my decision right there. I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. I was going to find out everything first. That afternoon, I called a guy I knew from work. His brother-in-law had used a private investigator during his divorce, and apparently, the guy was exceptional. No nonsense, got results, kept things discreet. His name was Frank Keller. I met Frank at a coffee shop 2 days later. He was maybe in his late 40s, average height, wearing a plain jacket and jeans. Nothing about him stood out, which was probably the point in his line of work. We shook hands and sat in the corner. "So your wife is planning a trip," Frank said, pulling out a small notebook. And you think she's not going where she says she is? I know she's not, I corrected. I saw a text. She's going to Portland with someone named Mark. She told me she's going to Seattle with a friend. Frank nodded, jotting something down. You want to know what she does in Portland? Who this Mark is? If it's a one-time thing or something that's been going on for a while. I want to know everything, I said. And I want proof. Photos, texts, whatever you can get. Because when this is over, I don't want to leave her any room to talk her way out of it. He looked up from his notebook and studied my face for a moment. You've already made up your mind then. You're not doing this hoping I find nothing. I'm doing this because I need the truth, I said. Whatever that truth is. But yeah, I'm not naive. That text wasn't sent by accident. This was planned. Frank closed his notebook. I can help you. My rate is $100 an hour plus expenses. I'll need some information on her. Full name, photo, place of work, vehicle description, phone number if you have it. I have all of that, I said. When can you start? Today if you want. I'll need a retainer. $2,000 should cover the initial work. I didn't hesitate. I wrote him a check right there. Some might think it was a lot of money, but I thought about what 7 years of my life was worth, what my peace of mind was worth. Suddenly, $2,000 seemed cheap. Frank took the check and slipped it into his jacket. I'll start surveillance tomorrow. She leaves Friday, you said? Friday morning. By plane. I'll be at the airport, Frank said, and I'll follow her from there. You'll get daily updates. Photos, locations. Anything relevant. I'll also run a background check on this Mark. Find out who he is and what his situation is. His situation? I asked. If he's single, married, divorced. Where he works. If he has a history that might be useful to know. Frank leaned back in his seat. Knowledge is power in these situations. The more you know, the better your position is when it all comes out. Over the next 2 days, Frank did his homework. He called me Wednesday night with his first report. Mark Mitchell, Frank said over the phone. 36 years old. Works at the same company as your wife, different department. Marketing. From what I can tell. And here's the important part. He's married. Wife's name is Michelle. They have 2 kids, ages 7 and 10. I sat on the couch, processing this. He's married. He is, Frank confirmed. From what I can see on social media, they look like a normal family. Regular posts, kids' activities. The whole picture. Michelle has no idea what her husband is planning this weekend. Does she deserve to know? I asked, more to myself than to Frank. That's your call to make, Frank said. But in my experience, yes, she does. Not yet. Though, wait until you have everything you need first. Then you can decide what to do with the information. Friday morning came. She kissed me goodbye, pulling her suitcase toward the waiting rideshare car, telling me she'd call when she landed in Seattle. I waved from the door and watched her go. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. It was Frank. She just boarded a flight to Portland. Departs in 40 minutes. I'm on the same flight, 6 rows back. I sent a thumbs-up emoji in reply and sat on the couch in the quiet house. A part of me still couldn't believe this was happening, that she had actually gone through with it. That 7 years meant so little she could lie to my face so easily. But another part of me, the part that had been paying attention to all those little signs, wasn't surprised at all. Frank's first photo arrived that evening. Her and Mark at a restaurant, sitting close, his hand on hers across the table. They were smiling, looking happy. They looked like a couple. I stared at that picture for a long time, then saved it to a folder on my phone and went to bed. 2 weeks suddenly seemed like plenty of time to get everything in order. Frank wasn't kidding about being thorough. Over the next 14 days, my phone became a documentary of my wife's inappropriate relationship. Day 2, Saturday morning. A picture of them having breakfast at a trendy cafe with floor-to-ceiling windows. She was wearing that blue dress she'd bought a month ago. The one she said she was saving for a special occasion. I guess this qualified. Frank's text accompanied it. Powell's books after this. Then check in at the Riverside Hotel. Room 412. I have a room on the same floor. I was at the grocery store when that message came in, just standing in the produce section. Holding a bag of apples, reading about my wife checking into a hotel with another man. The guy next to me asked if I was okay. I told him I was fine and moved on to the coffee aisle. That night, she called me. A video call. She was sitting on what looked like a hotel bed, but the angle was careful. Just her face and a generic wall behind her. "Hey," she said, smiling. "Just wanted to check in, see how things are." "Same as usual," I said. "House is quiet. How's Seattle?" "Great. Sarah and I went to this amazing bookstore today. You'd love it. Huge place, like 4 stories. Powell's Books was in Portland. 4 stories. She wasn't even trying hard with her lies. "Sounds great," I said. "You two having fun?" "Yeah, it's nice to just relax and catch up. We're probably going hiking tomorrow if the weather holds." She tucked her hair behind her ear, that gesture she always made when she was pleased with herself. "Well, enjoy it," I said. "You deserve a break." We talked for another 5 minutes about nothing. She asked about work. I asked about Sarah, both of us lying smoothly to each other's faces. When we hung up, I looked at the picture Frank had sent earlier, her and Mark. His arm around her waist, both of them smiling at the camera like teenagers. I forwarded it to my lawyer with a message. Evidence file is growing. Sunday, Frank sent a video. A short clip, maybe 20 seconds. Them walking through a park, holding hands. She was laughing at something he'd said. Then he stopped, pulled her close, and kissed her. Not a quick peck, a real, intimate kiss. I watched it once. That was enough. Monday brought pictures from a fancy Italian restaurant. Tuesday was a hiking trail with a mountain view. Wednesday, they went to the coast. Frank's commentary was minimal but effective. Timestamps, locations, descriptions, building an airtight case 1 photo at a time. Thursday afternoon, I met with my lawyer. Her name was Eleanor Vance, mid-40s. With a reputation for being fair but ruthless when necessary. I sat in her office and showed her everything Frank had sent me. She went through each photo methodically, taking notes. "This is comprehensive," she said. "Your investigator knows what he's doing. The timestamps and locations are particularly helpful." "I want a clean break," I told her. "No long court battles, no," he said. She said arguments. "I want this so well documented that she has no choice but to agree to the terms." Eleanor looked up from the photos. "What terms are you thinking?" "Simple split. I keep my accounts, she keeps hers. The house is a rental. So that's straightforward. No alimony. We've only been married 7 years. And she works full-time. I'm not asking for anything that isn't mine, and I'm not giving anything that is. And if she contests, we show this to a judge," I said. "But I don't think it'll get to that. She's going to be too shocked that I know everything." Eleanor nodded slowly. "I can have the papers ready by tomorrow. Standard no-fault divorce. But we'll attach this evidence in case she decides to make things difficult. Are you sure about this? Once you file, there's no easy way to go back." "I've never been more sure of anything," I said. That night, day 5 of her trip, she called again, this time just audio. Said she was tired from hiking all day with Sarah. Her voice sounded happy, relaxed. Meanwhile, Frank's latest message showed her with Mark, dining at a high-end steakhouse, a glass of wine in hand. "I miss you," she said on the phone, and I had to stop myself from laughing at the audacity of it. "Miss you too," I replied. Because what else was I going to say? The truth? Not yet. Not until she was back and I had everything in place. By day 7, Frank had compiled enough material to fill a small binder. Photos, video clips. Even screenshots of text he'd managed to intercept through some technical method he didn't fully explain and I didn't ask about. One text in particular stood out. She had texted Mark. "This is perfect. 1 more week and then back to normal life. But at least we'll have these memories." Back to normal life. As if she was just going to come home and pick up where we left off. As if I was supposed to stand by and pretend everything was fine while she carried on with Mark at work. I showed that text to Eleanor the next day. "This helps," she said. "It shows clear intent and premeditation. She planned this trip specifically to be with him. It'll matter if she tries to claim it was a momentary lapse in judgment." "She's going to try every excuse in the book," I said. "I know her. She'll cry. She'll blame me. She'll say she was confused or going through something. I need to be ready for all of it." Eleanor leaned back in her chair. "The best defense against manipulation is documentation and emotional distance. You have the documentation covered. Can you handle the emotional part?" I thought about that question. A month ago, the answer might have been no. But watching those photos come in day after day, seeing how easily she lied to me, how happy she looked with him, something had shifted. It wasn't anger or bitterness anymore. It was more like clarity. Yeah, I said. I can handle it. Day 9 brought something interesting. Frank called me instead of texting. Got something you should know, he said. I dug deeper on Mark Mitchell. Found Michelle's contact info, social media profiles, phone number, email. You said you wanted to know everything about him. Well, his wife deserves to know everything too. You think I should tell her? I think she has a right to know her husband is spending 2 weeks in Portland with another woman while she's home with their kids, Frank said. But timing matters. If you tell her now, it could blow back on you. She might call your wife. Confront Mark. The whole thing explodes before you're ready. So I wait, I said. You wait until your wife is back. You've confronted her. And you filed the papers. Then Michelle gets the same courtesy of knowing the truth. That way, Mark can't spin some story and make himself out to be the victim. It made sense. I saved Michelle's info into a separate file and marked it for later. Days 10 through 13 blurred together. More photos, more restaurants, more scenic locations. She called me 3 more times. Each conversation was the same. Her lying about Seattle, me pretending to believe her, both of us playing our parts. On day 14, her last full day in Portland, Frank sent a photo that was almost funny in its irony. It was her and Mark at the airport, waiting for their flights. But here was the thing. They were at different gates, heading to different cities. She was flying back here, to our city. He was flying to San Diego, probably with some excuse to Michelle about a business trip, splitting up now to cover their tracks. Frank's message read, Your wife's flight lands at 6 p.m. tomorrow. I'll be on the same plane. But my job is done after that. 2 weeks of complete surveillance. I'll have the full report and all files ready for you in the morning. I messaged back, Thank you. Seriously, you did an incredible job. Just doing my job. Good luck with everything. The next morning, I met Frank at the same coffee shop where we'd started. He gave me a USB drive and a printed folder, both containing everything he'd gathered. Photos, videos, texts, locations. A complete 2-week chronicle of her choices. One more thing, Frank said as I was about to leave. Michelle Mitchell's info is in there too, in a separate file. When you're ready to let her know, you have everything you need. I shook his hand. I won't forget this. Most people don't, he said with a slight smile. I hope things work out for you. Or, work out as well as they can under the circumstances. I went home, put the folder in my desk drawer, and sat down to wait. Her flight would land in a few hours. She would come home with her rehearsed speech about needing space and not being sure about us. And I would be ready. Not with anger, not with tears or questions or desperate attempts to understand why. Just with the truth and a set of signed divorce papers. The wait was almost over. The first night she was gone, I ordered Chinese food and watched an action movie with the volume turned up. She had always hated those movies, called them mindless. I enjoyed every explosion. Day 2. I called my buddy Kevin. We'd been close in college but had drifted apart. Marriage does that. You get absorbed into the couple and forget your own friendships. Dude, it's been forever, he said. What's up? Wife's out of town for 2 weeks. Figured we could grab a drink. We met downtown the next night. Talked about work, sports, life. He mentioned a monthly poker game with some guys from college, asked if I wanted to join. I said yes without hesitation. The old me would have checked with her first. This version didn't need permission. Over those 2 weeks, I rediscovered myself. Went to the gym 4 times instead of 1. Cooked what I wanted. Stayed up late reading. The house felt lighter without her. I wasn't on edge anymore. Not watching my words or waiting for a critique about the dishes or the laundry. Day 6. I reorganized the garage. Found camping gear we'd never used because she wasn't an outdoors person. Found my old guitar buried under some of her boxes. I pulled it out and spent an hour relearning forgotten chords. My neighbor Scott came over while I was strumming badly. Didn't know you played, he said. I used to. She always said it was too loud. I strummed another chord. Scott nodded. My ex-wife hated when I worked on cars. Now I've got a whole workshop and no one to complain. We talked about divorce, his and my impending one. He didn't pry, just offered perspective from someone who had survived it. Best thing I ever did, he said. Should have done it sooner. Should have done it sooner. Those words stuck with me. How long had I been accepting less than I deserved? Years. The answer was years. Day 9. I went over my finances. We had kept separate accounts, split the bills evenly. No kids, no major shared debts. The lease was the only thing tying us together. I called the landlord and discussed options, breaking it early, taking it over myself, or letting it expire. Having that conversation felt like another step toward freedom. Day 11. I double-checked that my bank accounts were solely in my name. Confirmed my direct deposits. Made sure our finances were completely untangled. The manager asked if everything was all right. Just being thorough, I said. That afternoon, Frank sent another photo. Her and Mark at the ocean, arms around each other, watching the sunset. I looked at it and felt nothing. No anger, no jealousy, just a distant observation. She had done me a favor, shown me who she was before we bought property or had kids. 7 years seemed like a lot until I considered the alternative. Day 12. I met with Eleanor to finalize the papers. Clean, simple, no-fault divorce with the evidence attached. This is smooth, Eleanor said. Once she signs, it's just a matter of waiting for the court to process it. 3 to 4 months. I signed every line. My signature felt steady, confident. When I tell her, she's going to try everything to make me change my mind, I said. Best way to handle it? Stay calm. Don't engage with emotional manipulation. You are informing her of a decision that has been made, not asking for permission. Eleanor leaned forward. If she denies anything, you show her the evidence. You don't argue. Day 13. She texted. Can't believe there are only 2 days left. Part of me doesn't want to come home yet. Part of her didn't want to come home. To our marriage. Because she was too busy with someone else's husband. I replied, enjoy the rest of your trip. Short, simple, no emotion. Day 14. I went to the driving range. I used to do that with my dad in college. She said golf was boring, so I'd stopped. But standing there, focusing on the swing, I remembered why I loved it. It was meditative. Just me and the target. Kevin met me there. We hit a bucket of balls and talked about nothing important. Sports, weather, movies. Normal conversation. No tension. You seem good, man, Kevin said. Whatever's going on, it's working. Yeah, I said. It is. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Solid, peaceful sleep. Day 15. The morning of. I made coffee, did laundry, cleaned up, bought groceries. A normal Saturday routine, except it felt lighter. Like a weight I had been carrying was finally gone. Her flight landed at 6 p.m. She'd be home around 7 or 7:30. At 3:30 p.m., I placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table where she couldn't miss them. I put Frank's USB drive in my pocket. Then I sat on the couch and waited. Not nervous, not angry, not sad. Just ready for it to be over. After I dropped the bomb about the divorce papers and Mark's wife, Michelle, she just sat there, frozen. The silence stretched for maybe 30 seconds before her brain seemed to reboot. You're bluffing, she finally said, but her voice was trembling. You don't know anything. I pulled out my phone, opened the folder Frank had sent, and held it up. A photo of her and Mark at that Italian restaurant, his hand covering hers. Day 3. Giovanni's on Morrison Street. You had the seafood pasta. He had the steak. Her face went pale. I swiped to the next picture. Day 5. Hiking trail east of the city. Nice view. You were wearing those new hiking boots you bought last month. Swipe. Day 7. Checked into the Riverside Hotel, room 412. You stayed there 4 nights. She reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. I have 2 weeks of this. Photos, videos, text messages. Frank was very thorough. Frank, she whispered. The private investigator I hired 3 weeks ago, right after I saw the text from Mark on your phone about Portland. I put the phone away. You weren't subtle. The lies were lazy. Seattle versus Portland. Sarah versus Mark. A 2-week. Girls' trip versus 2 weeks with a married man. She stood up suddenly. This is insane. You violated my privacy. You had me followed. I had the truth documented, I said calmly. There's a difference. And honestly, you made it easy. You didn't even try to hide it well. We can fix this, she said, switching tactics. The tears started. I made a mistake. I was confused. Work has been so stressful, and Mark was just there, and I wasn't thinking clearly. You were thinking clearly enough to book flights, plan a 2-week itinerary, lie to my face repeatedly, and video call me from hotel rooms pretending to be at Sarah's. I remained seated, completely relaxed. Those aren't mistakes. Those are choices. Baby, please. She took a step closer. 7 years. We can't just throw that away. You threw it away when you got on that plane to Portland. I'm just making it official. She tried anger next. So what? You're perfect? You never made me feel neglected or taken for granted. If you were unhappy, you should have said something. Had a conversation. Suggested therapy. Literally anything except plan a romantic vacation with someone else's husband. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. But you didn't want to fix us. You wanted to have both. The stability of a marriage and the excitement of an inappropriate relationship. That's not true. Then what is true? I turned to face her. Explain it to me. Make it make sense. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. That's what I thought, I said. The papers are on the table. Read them when you're ready. It's all fair. You keep your things. I keep mine. No alimony since we both work. The lease is up in 4 months anyway. So housing is simple. This doesn't have to be ugly. And Mark's wife? She asked quietly. You said something about Michelle? Oh, she gets the same file you're looking at right there. Tomorrow morning. I figured she deserved to know her husband spent 2 weeks in Portland while she was home with their kids. The color drained from her face again. You can't do that. I absolutely can, and I will. Because unlike you and Mark, I believe spouses deserve honesty. She collapsed back into the armchair. He's going to lose everything. His marriage, his kids, probably his job. That's what happens when you make choices like that. Actions have consequences. You're really doing this, she said, and it wasn't a question. I'm really doing this. She looked at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. The version of me that would have accepted her apology, begged her to stay. Agreed to therapy while she kept seeing Mark on the side. That person was gone. The pizza should be here in about 20 minutes, I said, checking my phone. You have until then to pack a bag for tonight. After that, we can arrange a time for you to get the rest of your things. I'll be respectful, but you have to leave. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore, I said, not unkindly. Call a friend. Get a hotel. Call Mark. See if he's free. Though his flight landed in San Diego 2 hours ago, so probably not. She stared at me for a long time, tears streaming down her face. Real tears this time, not the manufactured kind from her entrance. Then she stood and walked into the bedroom. I sat back on the couch and finished my coffee. Through the bedroom door, I could hear drawers opening and closing, a suitcase zipping. 15 minutes later, she came out with an overnight bag. Her eyes were red, her makeup smeared. She looked at the divorce papers on the table but didn't touch them. I never wanted to hurt you, she said. No, you just didn't want to get caught, I replied simply. She had nothing to say to that. The doorbell rang. Pizza delivery. I got up to answer it, paid the driver, and came back with the box. She was still standing there, holding her bag. Goodbye, I said. Take care of yourself. She walked to the door, paused, and looked back as if she wanted to say something else. But whatever it was, she kept it to herself. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I opened the pizza box and took a slice. Pepperoni. Still hot. Perfect. My phone was already out, composing an email to Michelle Mitchell. Subject line, information about your husband you need to see. It was time for everyone to know the truth. I sent the email to Michelle that night. I attached every photo, every video, every piece of evidence Frank had collected. I kept the message simple. Your husband spent the last 2 weeks in Portland with my wife. I thought you deserved to know. I'm sorry you have to find out this way. She replied within the hour. Just 2 words. Thank you. The next morning, my phone started blowing up. Not from my now ex-wife, but from Mark. 6 missed calls, a dozen texts ranging from angry to desperate. I blocked his number without reading past the first one. My ex tried different approaches over the next week. She showed up at the house twice, I didn't open the door. She sent long text messages about how we could work through this. I replied once, signed the papers. She called my mom to try to get her to talk some sense into me. My mom, who had never been particularly fond of her, told her I sounded happier than I had in years. She signed the papers on day 9. Eleanor called to confirm. She didn't contest a thing. Signed everything is written. Should be finalized in about 3 months. Good, I said, and I meant it. Through Kevin, I heard what happened to Mark. Michelle filed for divorce immediately. He was kicked out of their house, got limited custody of the kids. Word got around at work, too. Apparently, having an inappropriate relationship with a coworker while married didn't look good for either of them. Last I heard, Mark was transferred to a different branch in another state. My ex-wife put in her resignation 2 weeks later. I didn't feel bad for either of them. They had made their choices. 3 months later, the divorce was final. I signed a lease on a smaller place, closer to downtown. A 1-bedroom, just for me. I decorated it exactly how I wanted. The guitar had a proper stand in the corner. My camping gear was in the closet, ready to go. I joined Kevin's poker game, made some new friends, started dating casually, nothing serious. I took a weekend trip to the mountains with Scott and actually used that camping gear. I slept under the stars and didn't think about her once. 6 months after the day she came home from Portland, I ran into her at the grocery store. Pure coincidence. She was in the produce section. She looked tired, older somehow. Hey, she said quietly. Hey, I replied, putting some apples in my cart. How are you? I'm okay. You? Good. Really good, actually. And I was. No performance, no exaggeration, just the truth. She nodded, looked like she wanted to say more, maybe apologize again, or explain or ask if there was a chance, but she must have seen it in my face. There wasn't one. Take care, I said, and moved on to the next aisle. That night, sitting in my apartment with a beer and a good movie, my phone buzzed. It was Kevin, asking if I was coming to poker next week. I texted back, definitely. Life was simple now, uncomplicated. No lies, no games, no wondering if the person I was with actually wanted to be there. Just me, making choices that made sense, surrounding myself with people who respected me. I thought about that day she walked in with her suitcase and her rehearsed speech, how she expected me to fall apart and beg, and how wrong she was about who I was and what I would accept. The best decision I ever made was hiring Frank. The second best was signing those papers. I took a sip of my beer, settled into my couch, and smiled. This is what freedom felt like, and it was worth every penny. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.